Hello, my wonderful people. Now, welcome back again to Bod TV Bod, where they analyze trends of what's they happen. News they reach us saying that APC, their party, now it push Bola Ahmed Tinubu make it become president. Say they know everything about it, they refuse to make it public. Now they hold this whole thing secret. So I can't think I'm say, now what thing they do to Yaradua, now they want still do to Bola. All this thing, this old party, now big party, they all started from PDP. Now one big family before they split. So now still them. Now it's sitting inside that place. So according to the source, they talk say they put Tinubu there because they know the reason why they put him there. And if you look at Vice President Shetima, the man is strong and healthy. Does that go video? Now when the party, the dinner party where Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the first lady and the vice president and the wife, they dance together. Mona sit dance, laughing. And in fact, they roll for grand. I don't know, say some men they dance. We not need to see the vice president they dance like this. Una don't see dance. Una don't see correct dance. If una see dance, hey, now they are going to see some dance, so they be like this. So they be like this. Let me hear. Oh, hey God, if you not see that the video, then I also show now another video of the Kano governor where he refused to use the former governor's seat because he believes say Cham did the seat. If you see the way they fling the chair come over road there, say no they use, he bring your own chair come. Now wow, don't they catch ourselves wish show. First day in office, they don't they cash wish. I need to see Governor Wike when they give award to over or up to 200 people. We be say they work with them or just they give the award to them, you know, to recognize them. Man, they got a vest. You know, Wike is always full of comedy. I need to watch this video. Like I was literally laughing. I was rolling. Hey God, Wike is a very funny man. I will miss him, and for this long years, 8 years, we already used to these people, the bad side, the good side of them, you know, so we wish them well. We don't wish anybody bad, but nevertheless, the new government will enter, so we need to embrace them. In fact, this is reality to us now. We need to embrace them. We need to support them. I need to be said they still do no good. We'll still bring our covers after all this and the work what they do. Don't take our personal. This is our job here. So the weak part of it, to bring it out. The ones who want them to try, we still say it. All right, guys, this is Bod TV, but please don't forget to share, like, and subscribe to this channel. Thank you so much for supporting us.
One of the things he also needs to note is that the greatest danger threatening him as I speak is members of his party. It's those who are saying everything is all right. It's those who are papering things over. I hope and believe that he will be more strategic than to go around surrounding himself with those who will be telling him that sort of thing. He has inherited a very terrible template, if you like, and situation, no security. I don't need to enumerate them. We all know the details to the point that it's become boring. So imagine he makes an impact on that in the short term, in the medium term, and in the long term, where Nigerians see him solving the problems that they are worried about. Nobody will think about political party. Nobody will think about tickets, etc.
And I just want to ask you, this transition from one leader to the other, but on the same platform of the political party APC, does that make the job any easier or more difficult for President Tinubu? I mean, you've talked about the state of the nation, which we all know, record debt profile, rising inflation, increasing poverty, unemployment rate, and all of that. But he's inheriting this from the same APC party, his predecessor, former President Muhammadu Buhari. Will this make it any less difficult for him to navigate?
Not entirely. I think the man is in trouble, really, with what he has inherited. And I think that he must do everything not to continue. You don't speak of continuity in government. This is one man who must ensure there's no continuity from what he inherited, because the indices are scandalous. The evaluation of all the parameters indicate a culture that, to put it mildly, is actually verging on shamelessness to present all of that as a record. So President Tinubu has a duty to ensure that everything, practically everything that this government, outgone government represents, does not get replicated in his tenure. So we're not asking for continuity. He can retain the name of the party, but give good governance. And talking about things being easier, the discipline to follow through. Take, for instance, the experience of the PDP, which was in office for 16 years. First, the Obasanjo regime brought out a fantastic document, the SEATS initiative, SEATS document, NEETS document, which is a SEATS component. Anybody following through with that, along with the monetization policy, would have gotten himself a perfect Nigeria and paid up all the debts. Now, the same party took over 8 years later. Now, it wasn't NEETS. They went on to talk about a 7-point agenda. I don't know if there's anyone who knows one out of the 7 points, not to talk of whether it was carried out. Then what came next? Transformation agenda. From the same government, the same presidency actually, because President Jonathan was vice president to Yar'Adua before he passed. And he said transformation agenda. Now, what was transformed? So you find that we already have absolutely incontrovertible precedent of one party in power pretending to be tendering different policies, all of them designed to move Nigeria forward, but actually mired itself in a culture of incoherence. And the same thing went on and on until they lost. Not because they were designed to lose that election, but because they mismanaged themselves so badly that they helped to throw themselves out of office. Now, Tinubu has been sworn in. APC, in my view, right or wrong, but that's my view, has not left anything for anybody to be proud of in governance, in the image of the nation, in citizenship, loyalty to the nation, in patriotism, in the cohesion of the Nigerian state, and the feeling of inclusivity. In my view, it's called close to zero on all. But the fact that we also cannot deny is that it has helped us also to be a little more honest about many dishonesties. 20 years ago, nobody would have believed that we could see what we are seeing here in Nigeria. It shows that the political maturity is still far from where it should be. So Tinubu, fantastic strategist if you must, whether you like it or not. Nobody thought he would get the ticket. There are so many things people thought he couldn't do. So let him also shock and surprise us by giving us a new Nigeria. In which case there would be, whether his presidency lasts for how long, whatever. If, for instance, he's upturned in court, let's assume that happens and he has to step aside, he should ensure that as at the time he's stepping aside, people are saying, oh dear, why did this judgment come? That's what he should target. Look at his age. So he's not looking to amuse or entertain anybody. He has to leave a mark. If despite all the forces arrayed against him, he could emerge as president today, he should look up and tell his creator, Lord, for whatever reason you put me here, don't let me be distracted because my people have suffered long enough. That is the way to go about it. So, as I made the point at the beginning, yes, the process of democracy includes the legal process for final validation. That will be going on, but you can't suspend the presidency and say, oh, let's wait for the case to end. That does not make sense. It's not in our law. But what would be foolish is to assume that, oh, with the inauguration, okay, everything is settled. No, we must have a Nigeria, and all of these are part of the processes of national development, if you like, political evolution as well. Because many of the actors are going to find themselves on dry land. Many of them do not know, as I speak, that their visa has expired. When I say expired, exhaustively, and they will not have no forwarding address, etc. But as governor of Lagos State, actually, if you listen to him at that, he had some charisma. He had coming from the Nadeko thing. His manner of speaking was a bit sonorous, if even entertaining. Now, the only way Tinubu can have that kind of effect is to surround himself with people who are so competent that it will be impossible to complain about his government or say, I'm looking for the president. He is not an entertainer. He's not basket mouth. Leadership, you're not becoming a leader in order to be liked. You're becoming a leader in order to affect people's life for the better. For people not to think of government only when there's no light. In fact, if you look at the memory of most people, they only think of government in connection with suffering. Bad road, insecurity, absence of electricity, strange taxes, people doing all kinds of things on the road. And it's not about the Buhari government. It's about the Federal Republic of Nigeria's elite, which has been what you might call a leeching elite that only knows how to take and eat and has no capacity, at least from my experience, to actually drive development. Because let's be factual. There are how many states in the Southeast? 6. It was administered by one person from one office. The states in the North, 21, was run by Sir Ahmadu Bello. The ones in the South, by Awolowo. Look at now, in the North, you have 19 different apparatus to drive the same space, and there's not only underdevelopment, but retrogression. You go to the Southeast, you go to the Southwest, many people, they are now talking about political legacy. I mean, there are legacy projects and all of that. You find that some measure of political illiteracy also has crept into our national lexicon, and we don't know. Legacy cannot be a building. Our legacy in the Southwest is not the Cocoa House, that is a building. His legacy was education. His legacy was the effort he made to convince everybody going into office that knowledge is what you use for development. Zeke's legacy. Sir Ahmadu Bello's legacy is not building, it's the new consciousness he drove among Northerners that, listen, we have to develop ourselves. Listen, we shouldn't compete where we can't win. Listen, these are our shortcomings. But what do you have a legacy today? Somebody comes to your village or comes to a town, his legacy as a political senator, whatever you choose to call it. Oh, you get a piece of land, he builds a massive statue of a woman probably breastfeeding, and oh, that's his legacy. The people are clapping. That's our democracy dividend. How does that affect their lives? So you find that the level of national leadership, the quality of thinking has become the kind of thing you see only among slightly drunken people and in bars that are not doing good business. Now, the concept of legacy should change. It must begin with leadership signaling. You know, a lot of people are very pessimistic. There's no hope. No. Once a leader gives a signal, you have no choice but to comply. When Buhari took over, all of us in this country saw that there was electricity, to the shock of everybody, non-stop for 3 weeks. People became worried. Why are we having regular power supply? Then the reflexes were not clear, so we reverted to the old. Oh, and there are examples everywhere. Look at when Peter was governor. He came, he met a lot of things. He said, what is this? They say, oh, it is for this purpose. He said, sorry, it's not part of what this state should spend its money on. Others took a cue. Tinubu has a duty to himself, first of all, to convince everybody that, yes, he might have this kind of peculiar profile. Yes, he might have wangled his way to the presidency, but let his performance overwhelm people to silence. And that has to do with the caliber of people he has around him, the ministers he appoints, the level of monitoring. Now, that will then not make anybody's. Not all good leaders are charismatic in terms of personal appearance. But where he can't deal with the process of public administration, if he begins to outsource his job the way Buhari did, then first of all, we're in a deep hole. If he acts like that, it means we are digging deeper into the hole, and there's a tunnel without light.
Well said. But Professor, can I ask you, do you think Nigerians should be managing the expectations with all that you've put out now? And I also wanted to ask you, if the citizens do have a role in all of this, as we set the agenda for this administration?
Well, my first question would be whether there are citizens anymore. Citizens are individuals in a state who owe primary loyalty to the state and who therefore behave in such a way that the state subsists so that they themselves will subsist. We have indigenes of different parts of Nigeria, not citizens anymore. Let's not kid ourselves. And the political leadership emphasizes it. Indigenship is the issue on the table. We from Otubo, we won't take this. We from the kingdom of Ihiala will not. Everywhere is a kingdom. In fact, the way things are going, somebody walking on the road may even declare himself a kingdom. If you ask him where is your dome, the dome component of your kingdom, he says it's in his pocket. Now, what point am I leading up to? The people are no longer part of the political conversation in Nigeria. You might see them at rallies when they hire them and bring them in buses to stadium. After that, nobody thinks or talks about them. The people are not raising issues about the fact that their leaders have no constituency offices, I mean the lawmakers. So now, when you have that kind of a situation, leadership becomes the primary variable for driving both political and economic equilibrium. What do I mean? Everybody is interested only in himself, and the leader comes out and begins to take steps that shock everybody. Actually, he's concerned about everyone else. And I'll cite an example. As Special Assistant to the Minister of Transport, Ojoma Dwekwe, I was with him when his town summoned him to a meeting in the dead of night in his village. What was the query? You've been minister for this number of months and we're not feeling the impact. Yeah, people are not getting contracts. This is Nigeria's money. And what did he say? I'm appointed transport minister for the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And if I focus on just my state, my locality, and my people, there'll be nobody for Nigeria. If other ministers like me do the same thing, what do you expect? They're supposed to be Obasanjo's workmen, creating reassurance. Of course, that annoyed a lot of people, but it struck me as a reason why I should work with a man like that. Now, what am I leading up to? The new government has been sworn in has to give signals that will affect expectations. Once there are no signals and it looks like business as usual, we've lost the race even before we began. So I don't see how the people come into it, because the people have been sufficiently and thoroughly and exhaustively demobilized as critical variables on national policy issues, on matters pertaining to development, among other things. So they are there waiting. Imagine that different reflexes begin to come out. Imagine that you now go to the north and you're talking about development, not giving them, dashing them money, that you're dealing with the poor. Where does that happen on earth? That you sustain that volume of expenditure all over the country and you're borrowing money to give people to eat? Yes, you borrow money to take a chieftaincy title. After that, who will pay for your regalia? That's the kind of borrowing that's been going on, which he has to ensure that it does not happen at all. And he also has to review the agencies of government and institutions that need to exist. Here I may be mistaken, but I'll place my view on the table. I believe that an organization like the NDDC does not need to exist. We have governors in all those areas, move the money there, let them quarrel, whatever it is. Then you have the Northeast Development Commission, you have Ministry for Humanitarian Affairs, spending platforms. Some of the two organizations I've mentioned, for instance, they create just for the elite, the board membership spreads across all over the country. Once the state has to move back, it has to shrink. The number of agencies are too many, they are not delivering anything, nobody's taking inventory. Bola Tinubu has to revisit the Orosanye report. Because after that report, we've created so many other agencies, all of them of questionable relevance, and we are threatening and promising to create more. And I'll cite one that's very popular, but which I don't agree with. I think they are thinking about the Commission for Electoral Crimes. Whatever you do in an election is already in the law. If you disrupt elections, that's disturbance of public peace, assault, all of it. Assign these things to the courts. Let the judiciary grow stronger by retaining its integrity in managing all acts of misconduct that need adjudication. The cannibalization increases costs without delivering any real value. Those are some of the things he must begin to ask himself. If the CID department exists, and there are so many other crime agencies, what are they all doing? He must also ask himself why certain things need to go the way they are going. Look at the number of agencies, look at the number of ministries. So the people are not very strong factors in this conversation, and you can't weed them in by just making an announcement. Many of them don't understand the issues. At this point, leadership is what matters. And when the signals from the leaders are more inclusive, you don't find leaders talking about East, West, North, Middle Belt, and the rest of it, then the people also begin to key in. But for that not to happen, the leaders of these various regions I've mentioned must sense that they belong, that they are recognized, that they are taken seriously, and that they are part of the Nigerian equation. For as long as that doesn't happen, every person you meet will be an indigene of his locality, not a citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And he will have no loyalty to Nigeria, and he will support, and you're seeing it everywhere. But again, I believe it's a matter for another day.
Right.
Well, I'll go back to the Nadeko days. Even though it wasn't policy as substantive intervention for somebody in government, It was an attempt to influence policy in order to support equity, fairness, among other things. He was very active. He could have lost his life at that time. So you can't ignore that that was patriotic. Genuinely so. As governor, well, I remember there was a tiff, if you like, when some controversies also arose about him. Then I was chairing the editorial board of Comet, which is now The Nation. I wrote an article, what was it again? A governor at work, when they tried to do some PR. It was Dele Alake also. They did some PR for him and all of that. Now, the very next day, somebody came from his office to talk to me. Oh, you know, they are trying to explain themselves. One thing you will give him is his capacity to get into all the nooks and crannies. He must have a very good way of managing his own efficiencies in terms of deployment of people. Now, if you take his tenure in Lagos, you know, and this is not about praise or blame, it's about facts.
Yeah, very quickly. So when you look at his speech or his statement, a number of people's eyes had been on the president, the incoming government, as to whether they would bite the bullet and remove subsidy. So that was a good thing to say. However, the way in which and the manner in which he said it perhaps was what the issue is, or what the issue is, because there's no doubt IMF has said it, World Bank has said it, many economic analysts have said it, that we need to remove subsidy and divert that fund to other developmental projects or infrastructure in the country. But the fact that he said it, you know, there was a ripple effect from that, which is negative, especially for Nigerians. To be fair, Oji, the night before the inauguration, there were already small queues because marketers perhaps had anticipated that this would be part of his inaugural speech. By the morning of Monday, this queues had become a bit longer. But when the speech was done, the queues elongated. And then now, beyond the queues on the road, I hear that price of transport costs has gone up to 2 or 3 times the usual cost. Reports right now coming to me says that some people from Ajah to Lekki, they're paying 1,000 naira where it was 300 naira. So you can already begin to see the effect of that. So good policy, but not well delivered. Yes. It should have been tactically done, and perhaps some things should have already been put in place. Now let me come to the marketers, because we have to talk about that. So they've announced the fuel subsidy going. How does that immediately impact on the price of fuel, as we see on that pump? Tweet, yes. Why should it go up to 600 naira immediately? Did they buy the new unsubsidized fuel? Why is the cost being passed on to the people? Why are some marketers deliberately hoarding fuel? Because Mele Kyari, as was said in previous fuel scarcity situations, that we have enough supply to go around for at least 1 month. Yes. What is the problem? Why are they hoarding? I hope this would be investigated, and that Nigerians do not become Nigerians' own problem, so that we see that it's not just the government that we point fingers at. Even the people who are marketing the fuels, the people who are selling, ought to also be brought to, be questioned as to why this immediate rise in cost.
That is the actual point, Ayo.
So answering your question, there's something called the pass-through effect. Once the president said what he said yesterday, a lot of things happened. In the depots, they heard that message. The interpretation is the price flipped in the depots. And also the cost at which they collect from them for charges of the truck, the price flipped. Probably when a 33,000 liter truck dispenses everything he's got, he has to go and queue up in the depot again. The moment he dispenses all that in his truck, the dynamics has changed, irrespective of what they had in their tank farms before. So the dynamics change across board, and it's the ripple effect that happens through the marketers. And that's why they react that way. It is also the pass-through effect that happens to the cost of commodities. And that's why I kept on insisting, for you to make decisions, there must be an econometric outlook on the pass-through effects, where you weigh the variables. It's always a case of a cascading domino effect once that happens. So what should be done now? You see, the announcement he made, it would have been different if he even made the announcement that he had a subsidy removal plan. Whatever he's going to do now, he must be able to have a plan of how he's going to navigate this. Because the announcement has caused a ripple. And that's why we advise. Even if it's an economic kitchen cabinet, you should have them working around the clock as we speak today. They're going to do 3 things. Number 1, they're going to diffuse the effect in the media through calculated attempts. So Mr. Dele Alake needs to start work now. The next couple of press releases in the media will be very critical to this issue. So he needs to start his work now, write those press releases incumbent on the advisory of the economic team, put up a plan, show a pathway to your resolution of this. Then try to stabilize market. Then the fourth layer is also input from the NNPC, like they have said that they have enough. But NNPC will always say they have enough in times of crisis, but it doesn't affect the market reality.
Yeah, Nigerians are
So
the biggest problem.
you need to now set up a crisis scenario, put it out there, sort of like stabilize things, and ensure that going forward, key policy pronouncements like that have a calculated, well thought out plan. I think that's the first place for crisis management. Will that totally manage a crisis? It might not.
Right.
But also take it in good faith and take the reaction. So in the next couple of days, there has to be press releases by Mr. Adeleke Alaki and his team as a spokesperson. What they will say should be dependent on the advice of the economic team.
All right.
Because they now need to put a plan on ground, and that's what they should keep on pressing.
Well, let's head over to Kano State now, where the newly elected governor, Abba Kabir Yusuf, on Monday caused a stir on social media after a video surfaced online showing the governor refusing to sit on the official chair used by his predecessor, Abdullahi Ganduje. In the video, the governor was seen opting for an official smaller seat as he prepared to give an address. Rufai, I mean, what do you make of this story? I mean, look at, people were saying, this man knows how not to, how to protect himself at this point. I mean, this was quite the video there. He refused to sit on Ganduje's seat. But you know that there's been a lot of reactions to this story and the fact that Ganduje and the NNPP had issues. Well, in the meantime, supporters of the New Nigeria People's Party booed the Emir of Kano, Abdullahi Aminu Ado Bayero, at the Sani Abacha Stadium during the inauguration ceremony of the new governor. Kano former Governor Abdullahi Ganduje had crowned Bayero the 15th Emir of the state in 2020 after dethroning Lamido Sanusi. The presidential candidate of the New Nigeria People's Party, Rabiu Kwankwaso, in April had promised that the new governor of the state, Abba Kabir, would revisit the issues. Right.
Like I said this morning, he said he doesn't want to sit down there.
Yeah.
You know, in African parliament, they say maybe they have put Otumokbo on the seat and things like that. But I don't want to believe that. So I feel there was no big deal. He should have just sat down there.
Yeah.
I mean, the seats will have been screened, but also...
Otumokbo is what?
You know, Otumokbo. I can't be explaining the meaning of Otumokbo.
This is an international
TV.
Yes.
Yeah.
Witchcraft, is it?
Otumokbo means enchantment.
Charms
of some sort. But
yeah.
I don't want to believe that.
Right.
I mean, it just goes to show the acrimony. And see, I keep telling people, don't die in the war of politicians. This same Ganduje they are fighting with used to also be a strong person in the Kwankwasia movement. He was deputy governor to Rabi Musa Kwankwaso. Now that they are loggerheads, you can see the fight playing out. And we all know where the allegiance of Kabir Yusuf lies. I hope that when Kwankwaso and probably Kabir Yusuf start their own fight many years down the line, they will not pull the Kano people into this. Because now, you remember how everything was good between Ganduje and Kwankwaso, and the role Kwankwaso played for the emergence of Ganduje. But we see how they fought. So I just hope when the thing twists, we will not see the same. Acrimony will not take anybody further. It is incumbent on the governor to be able to investigate things. Yes, he can. Like he said, he wants to revoke the sale of some land that's around schools. You can investigate, you can set the record straight. But please do not have a vindictive air, an acrimonious air. Because if you are focusing on fighting your enemies, you will not be able to focus on the kind of people that need development. And please, they should temper down the political climates. I think it was unnecessary booing the Emir, Ado Bayero, in Kano. It is not nice. I know there was fractious matter on ground, and governors too should be watchful. In their fight and political dominance, they should not bring in our revered traditional institutions into it. Because we all know the reason why Sanusi was pulled out was just because of his closeness to Kwankwaso, the former governor that brought him in. But you can see the backlash. And this is to show all of us that power is transient. It doesn't last forever.
Yes.
And we should be careful in our outlook and what we do. I'm not saying the new governor should not investigate and try to get the book straight from the past. Just like I'm not saying that governors that are just coming in should not call out the governors that owe big debts in their states, but they should not also be like the people they are trying to castigate and temper things down. Ganduje is out today. Governor Kabir Yusuf too should remember that someday soon, he too will be going out of that position.
Absolutely.
Let's be careful. Acrimony will not take us anywhere.
Absolutely.
Osa Uchendu. Osa Uchendu. Osa Uchendu. Osa Uchendu.
Bod TV Bod. In case the first time you come here, please don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more uploads.